Welcome to New Breakpoint, Microsoft's digital event series designed for developers by developers. I'm your host, Michelle Sandford, Developer Engagement Lead for Australia, New Zealand and Asia. We'll bring you interviews with developers and technology experts from across the Asia-Pacific region. And when you join us on the second Thursday of every month, you can ask questions that my guests and I will answer live in chat. Today, I am joined by Michelle Wong, nickname Wongy, who, among other things, is the Chief Disruptor for GOSH and the champion of the Mandurah Western Australia Dojo for Coder Dojo. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you here. And with us as well, we have Sarah James. She's a mentor in the Mandurah Dojo, as well as Director of Insights and Data at Capgemini, and a board member for the Autism Academy at Curtin University. Thank you both for joining us for this special edition of New Breakpoint that celebrates the Global Accessibility Awareness Day on May 15th.
Thank you, Michelle, for having us. It's very exciting to be talking with both of you, two of my favourite people.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, Wongi, maybe you can tell us about the Coder Dojo in Mandurah, how it came about and what is special about it.
Yes, the Mandurah Coder Dojo is part of the Autism Academy, which is run by Curtin University. So we're a group of volunteers who every Saturday catch up, and we are specifically for neurodivergent young people. And it's an absolutely magical place because it's such a proof of concept of how what an inclusive space looks like, operates, and the outcomes in regards to the young people. So first and foremost, we're a social point for these amazing youth. But then also the side effect is the incredible talents and skill sets that we're not only unearthing, but also providing space for growth and development. So how it came about is a very funny story because I'm a member of the Curtin Autism Research Group with my research focusing on motivation for autistic youth to participate in physical activity. And there was another PhD student who was doing their project around social groups and coding, and I volunteered to help out as a mentor, thinking I'm not a coder or a programmer, but I'm certainly can support in the space of advocating and creating safe spaces for autistic young people. And the PhD project finished probably about 7 years ago or so now, and the program was going to close down. And I said, "Oh, I'll keep running it." So that's how I came to be the champion of the group. And so the first thing I did was move venues into a different space that I found was a lot more comfortable and inviting for the young people, and the mentors and the ninjas. No one leaves. We've all been doing it for years now. It's the best day of the week for us. We've all got very high, so our roles are quite demanding professionally. So it's really a lovely time to just all of us to debrief and the mentors are all neurodivergent. I've got ADHD, and then the other mentors, we've got everybody welcome. But of course, we all love being with our own tribe as well as the kids too. So it's a very special place, and I'm glad to be here to share as much as I can to the greater population on how easy it is to create safe spaces in especially around tech.
Perhaps I should just back that up a little bit because it might be that our audience doesn't all know what Coder Dojo is.
Yeah.
So I'll just say Coder Dojo is an organisation that teaches kids ages 7 to 17 how to code, but it's a very each one teach one environment. So it's not that there's an adult there teaching them stuff, it's that they are learning from each other, and each of the little ninjas, as they're called, will teach their friends stuff that they have learnt. And in WA we have more Coder Dojos than any other country in the world.
Wow.
And this is quite miraculous. This is more than, not Australia has more coder dojos, but
Yeah.
Western Australia has more coder dojos than any other country in the world. And coder dojo is not an Australian thing. It started in Ireland. So it really is tremendous how well it has taken off in Australia, and in particular in Western Australia. So, cool. What would you say have been your biggest learnings from the experience?
On a personal level, just the power of shutting up and stepping back. Um, Professionally, my background of 15 years in education with individual needs, behavioural management, and gifted and talented. So as every teacher will vouch, we love telling everyone what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So, but also with my background in working with individual needs, I'm also very, very good at noticing beyond the behaviour and understanding that skills, talent, or reasons behind that. So I think a combination of having that ability, but then also learning to just wait, because what initially you think, what on earth are you doing that for, and why are you doing it that way? And the way the autistic minds work is just phenomenal. And they go, which you think is off on every tangent and down every rabbit hole and then they come up with these incredible solutions. The beauty of the magic is, and Sarah is a perfect example, because I see this in her as one of my most beautiful, bestest friends, and an autistic woman. She sees these solutions and pathways, and that's obviously what the young kids are doing as well. And myself, I'm like, why? I don't understand why they're doing it. But then when it comes to its conclusion, it's just mind blowing, and that's why I'm passionately advocating for these clubs and environments, because it's giving kids the space to change the world. Like, they're coming up with incredible solutions. They're using technology in ways that it was never, necessarily the inception of that technology, and then what they do with it. So it's, yep, just to watch, and then, I'm sure we'll talk about Gosh a little later on, and Gosh is the same in the judging of that we really get the judges to observe and just watch what these kids are doing and how they're doing it, rather than listen to a 3-minute pitch. So it's very, that my biggest learning, and if I could just get more people in the workplace and in education to, just give that space and watch what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. It's perhaps a good time for Sarah to jump in and tell us how you got involved and all of that.
Yeah, I got involved originally 2018. I was helping one of the large mining organisations in Perth with their autism program and about neurodiversity. And I got introduced to a gentleman called Telly Tan. And I say gentleman because he's an amazing person, so selfless and does some amazing things. So he helped me, and he helped me to hire some interns and to grow our program at that mining company from, I think we had about 2 or 3 to, by the time I left, over 20, which was outstanding. And he said to me, "Oh, Sarah, why don't you get involved with the Autism Academy on our board?" And I was like, "Oh, I'd enjoy that," not knowing. I just thought I was helping. And then a few years later, school and others had raised problems with my youngest daughter. She wasn't doing well at school. She was really struggling. And I shared this with Telly, and Telly said to me, "Why don't you chat with Wongy and go and have a chat down in Mandurah and get her at a coding club?" I'm like, "But she's only 7 at the time, and 10 is the age, isn't it, that we take?" And he said, "Well, if you mentor, she can go." So in the end, I ended up taking both my daughters, and it's been a journey of 3 years helping make a difference. And she has gone from hiding under a table reading a book to sitting at a chair at a desk coding. And now you can't get her off coding. So she absolutely loves it. She's now 10. She's in her element when she's with a computer, which is wonderful to see, but a very creative side of it. So often, I'm looking at a drawing, I'll share the drawing now that she did at Coda Dojo with one of the girls there. And this drawing is an example of what can come out of her brain. Hopefully you can see that. When she is allowed to express herself and then take that creative drawing and turn that into a computer game. And that's the way she works. She comes up with these amazing drawings and then plays with them and creates in her own little world. So yeah, so that's how we got involved. And now I attend when I can. It's not every weekend because we have commitments like with the farm and different things. But Wongi's great because if you have a family emergency going on, like I had some surgery recently, it's okay to take a break. It's okay. This community is a safe space. And that's why I keep coming back, because I've just I love being around people who think like me as well. And I wish when I was young, I had that, because it really does. It would have made my life easier when I was younger, that's for sure. But yeah.
And I think that's that. I hear
I
that
think
from all of the mentors, and the first time, and even when parents come along for the first time with their young people, that's everyone. I wish this was around when I was young, because I think there's a lot of, obviously in the tech space, a lot of deep diving around what's really real and important, and that sense of community and a place to belong is a really great space that tech can play, and the coding clubs can help. And also, when you asked before about my biggest learning, and then the second biggest learning in regards to a management position, and if you're looking at your executive leaders in industry, is to acknowledge the talent of your autistic staff, but with that comes irregular hours. And as Sarah said, I recently was interviewed, and I said, I just make sure that I'm there to set up and get it set up, and then whatever happens after that, I take it as it goes, because I will consistently have mentors that are not there, or that are there, and then I also will have mentors that recently we've had a mentor come back who's been off for some time, and as Sarah said, we've really got a space that allows people just to come back and not feel the pressures in the working world or whatnot of having to explain yourself and whatnot. And people need to acknowledge that autism, neurodivergence, is an invisible disability, and all of us neurodivergent types, no matter what neurodivergence, experience overwhelm at some point, especially the high achieving ones who do all of the things. And with overwhelm comes time to shut down and regulate, and just to get back on track again. So so I think when you've got a very talented workforce and a very talented group of people like I do at coding, part of that is that they have to have some rest and personal space. So,
And Wongi, I think that's very important. So, and I think that's something that when you are neurodivergent, what comes with that is also the perfectionism, the hyperfocus, you love, and you're so passionate about what you do. I don't think you realize until you're older the need for rest and the need for that recuperation. And you can almost see this in these young people, that they don't know how to rest yet. They haven't got there yet. They haven't, and it's we're there when they have those moments where they suddenly realize they need to rest, or they realize that they're in overwhelm. We're there to help them through and understand that, because often they don't know they're going into it and they can't understand why they're feeling this way. And even as adults, we still struggle now and again. So yeah, it is beautiful.
I think as we've all been watching at the moment, everything that's happening in the US and the way they're being pressured to roll back on their diversity and inclusion and accessibility programs, talking about this kind of stuff now makes it really obvious to me what a huge mistake that is, because you have large aspects of your workforce that can provide true value and can provide real skills in certain areas that other people might not be as good at, if they are given access to the right work environment, the right support, the right culture. And it's not about giving people something extra that other people don't have. It's about making the workplace optimal for everyone in it so that they can all be their best people, all bring their best selves to work and provide skills that not everyone can provide. Sarah, I think you've seen a lot of that through your work with Osaka. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about the Autism Academy for Software Quality Assurance and how that works with the interns that you were describing,
Yeah.
getting their scholarship programs.
Yeah, I don't know huge amounts, but I know what I've dealt with. So we catch up.
Mm.
It's volunteer led. We catch up once a quarter, and we have a board, it's basically a coffee chat, and we chat about what's happening across the different programs. So I know we've got the research side of which Wong you mentioned earlier. We've also got the intern side, which is where we offer scholarships, which are funded by the organisation that wishes to have an intern. And what they do is then provide an income for that individual so that they can work, get used to the company that they're going into, and then the end of it is to offer them a job. That is the intent of the internship. There's also the I'm going to get this wrong, the software quality assurance certification that they can also get as well. And Wongi, we've got one of the youngest, haven't we, who's ever completed it from our club in Mandurah, which is it's amazing. And I was very lucky
How old are
to,
they?
they 15, Wongi, at the time
He was
when
14.
they got 14. Yeah,
14, yeah.
it's amazing. So
So
I was
the
across from him.
International
It's
Software
amazing.
Testing, Quality
Yeah,
Assurance Board.
ISTQB. Yeah, we can
ISTQB,
pop
yep.
it in the chat there. I was across from him when he was going for his exam and part of the coaching before going for that, as well as Jan. She's called Weeble. She's amazing as well. And to see him
Mm.
focus on that exam and just this is stuff that even people who've gone through university, come out the other side, struggle to pass this exam. It's it's a hard exam,
So
so
it's
to see him just fly
traditionally
through
done
it,
at the end of a computer science
yeah,
degree, yep.
yeah, it was amazing to watch and just to see, and at the end of it, he was like, "Yeah, I've done it." I'm like, you finished? And he's like, "Yeah, all done." I'm like, okay, that was quick. Wasn't expecting that, and it's so blasé and so humble, I think is the word. There's a humbleness that comes with the intelligence that is behind there. And I think going back to what you said, Michelle, about what's happening in the States at the moment, um, I think that our Coder Dojo and what Wongi does and what Telly does and everything, and I don't do quite as much, but I try. It's about giving people a voice and a platform because often um, often they don't know how to raise their voice and they've got amazing ideas and it's knowing how to do that. Um, a very good example of this was one of the interns that I coached and mentored over the years. She originally wasn't able to raise her voice in a group more than 2 or 3 people. So I encouraged her, first of all, just put your hand up and I will bring you into the conversation. And the problem was she hadn't learned how and when to enter that conversation. And now she's absolutely amazing. She does her own podcasts on LinkedIn and talks about different things and is absolutely amazing. So to see that person go from not able to speak in a public forum to standing in front of 500 or plus people and running her own podcast is absolutely amazing. So yeah, I think it's about giving people a voice and a platform and to help.
And I think off the back of that,
Yeah.
it's a very valuable alternate pathway platform because as we've, it's been a bit of a theme through this conversation that we're not following traditional models of education or workplaces with what we do, which is where a lot of barriers fly up very quickly from industry and education around, oh, well, that won't work. We can't do that in our environment. So by us being able to, as Sarah said, then provide a proof of concept, but also a pathway for people to discover and time for them to demonstrate their value offer, so to speak. And then we can help them into a traditional pathway because we can advocate for them. They can speak, as Sarah said, start self-advocating and also identify the value of what they've got to offer. Sarah mentioned the humbleness. I honestly see it more as that I've worked with so many talented autistic people that they actually don't realise that they think differently in regards to their solution. Like I know I've had a conversation with Sarah before, and it sort of come out that she didn't at the time realise, she assumed that she was telling me a situation in a boardroom where she knew the solution immediately and just assumed everyone else did too, because to her it was obvious. And Sarah, you were that person who didn't necessarily advocate so strongly in the past, and I've seen that you grow in this space beautifully, and you absolutely will own it and realise that, hang on, no one else has seen this, but I have. So I think it's it's humble, yes, but it's also sometimes they don't realise that how incredible what they've come up with is. So it's a
and they
fun.
don't, and I'll talk from my perspective here. What you're talking about there, Wongi, it's also hard when you've come up with those ideas, how to inject them into the conversation without derailing everything else, and without scaring everybody else, and without creating fear, because you can see this grand idea and you're like, okay, and you almost have to take a step back and then plan and theorize, how are you going to get this across the line? How are you going to get everybody on board? And that again, we try and teach the kids as well.
I think nobody in the world of tech would be surprised to hear that people on the autism spectrum turn out to be extraordinarily good at coding or at security or at testing. But definitely Autism Academy and this Coder Dojo have shown the data behind that, have shown that there are so many people that are doing so well in those fields as long as they are allowed to thrive by being their own person. There was a guy speaking at one of our meetups the other week, and he was describing a situation where he had someone in for an interview, and the interview was going terribly. The guy did not seem to be very forthcoming about anything. When he was asked to describe any solutions to problems or how he would do stuff, he really couldn't answer any of the questions. And as sort of last Hail Mary, the guy said, well, let's do the coding part, put him in front of a computer. And from the moment the guy started coding, he just started talking and he just started explaining his ideas and what he was doing and how he was problem solving. And his interviewer was like, this guy is a genius. But it didn't come out until he was able to sit there and code. And I think really that's one of the points we're trying to make here, that people have different ways of being able to express themselves and be able to do their best work in the workplace. And you might absolutely miss it if you try and force them to conform to the same box that everyone else is doing. So that whole, everyone must work from the office, everyone must work in an open space, everyone must do things in a certain way, does not work for even a high percentage of the population.
And I think
actually maybe you could talk about that a little bit more, Sarah, because I know that you have been to workplaces where you have been able to get them to adapt how they let people work in them so that they can be more productive.
Yeah, I've changed interview processes and got HRs in many organisations, which is pretty cool. So interviewing, for example, in a group form, and then buddying people with like-minded. I will never forget the moment that in one of the organisations. We had a group of interviewees and a group of interviewers, and we'd rotate. So everybody would move, and then you get to talk to different people. And we'd obviously briefed and said, look, the conversation might be hard to begin with. It's okay if there's no eye contact. We can just work around it and find the topic that somebody connects with. And I remember a mentor, an interviewer and an interviewee talking, and all of a sudden they started talking about football, AFL. And it was, the reason why it happened was because the interviewee had a tie, which was from Fremantle Dockers. Not my favourite club, but hey, we'll go with that. And they just didn't stop talking. And that turned into an internship. And I was like, that is absolutely amazing. And another time early in my career, and looking back now, I didn't realise why we were doing it. So another, I'll say, gift or superpower of often those who are autistic is spatial reasoning, spatial awareness, spatial drawing, like drawing of cars, unity, geographical locations, that type of thing. So if you research it, you'll find it as well. And I started off in geographic information systems, and in the end, when interviewing, and this is back in the early 2000s, we didn't just do an interview like this. We did here is the script, follow the script, tell me how far you can get and what would you add to it to make it different, in one of the world's leading spatial software. And more often than not, if people did well on the showing us how they create in spatial world, they were successful. So it was more of a practical exam, so to speak, or interview. And then another one at one of the big four consulting organisations I worked with changed the interview process again to include a whiteboard. So the person could also use paper and pen to draw their vision, their idea, and then convey it onto a whiteboard to a group of people. And that worked well because I'm doing it now. I'm drawing while thinking and talking, and that's so that your brain doesn't get distracted. There's many other ways. The organisation I'm with now, Capgemini, I'm so proud to be part of, because when I joined them, there was a little tick box that said, do you identify as neurodivergent? And it wasn't, what I liked about it wasn't a discussion around whether I was disabled, because I'm not disabled. And it wasn't a discussion around whether I had spent thousands of dollars on getting a diagnosis, or tens of thousands in some instances. It was around how I thought and where I considered my brain to be, and based on the family we have as well. And they also are supportive of that, which is really good. And on top of that, willing to have an open conversation about it, which is good. And then we'll put supports in place. So when I ticked that little box, I was like, shall I do it or not? And going back to Wongi's conversation around advocating for yourself, I ticked that box because if I wasn't brave enough to, then I can't support others to. So yeah, so there is little things that can make a big difference in the way you hire and the way you interview. Huge things.
That's perfect.
Right.
That's awesome. Wongi, do you want to jump in with anything?
Yeah, so on that note too, so I do a lot of professional consultation in workplaces and around inclusion. And I always say that if you take away one thing, is just that you say to yourself, does it matter? So does it matter that this person will not remove their sunglasses inside? Or does it matter that this person has to sit in that chair every time? And 90% of the time the answer is no, it doesn't matter, so let them do it, and if it does matter, if it's a safety concern or an issue, because I always say it only matters if it's safety or well-being, honestly. Like, it doesn't, if it's part of because we've always done this in our workplace, that's no excuse, because it really doesn't matter that person is not in attendance at this particular meeting where everyone just talks about their weekends, etc. So I think the first thing is if people ask that, and then looking at the workplace adjustments, like we were talking there about what the skill sets you need. I think a lot systems wise around this whole does it matter, and so I look at if we go off ATAR, which I hate ATAR and I hate assessments. I can't wait till education wipes everything, because I always say that the kids that are going to be your doctors, and they're your 99% ATAR students, are going to be doctors. And when I've got having surgery like Sarah recently, I want my surgeon to be at that top level. And they actually don't have to be a people person at all. It's a common thing and no one cares that a doctor has bad bedside manner, because they're saving lives and they're meticulous what they do. And I think we go into another role, and it doesn't matter if a software developer is not wanting to be part of an open workspace, and yeah, I think it's really that shift to understanding the needs in the workplace. And this filters right down to mums. We see, Michelle, at the She Codes, these incredibly talented women. And if we gave them a customized role that was 3 hours a day from home, working on their code, and they're delivering incredible outputs, and that supports them being mums, this is where I think the whole workplace can, like education, can do with a bit of a shake-up around those. Where I'm setting up a model of employment at the moment, and literally there's one full-time role in that model. The rest are small part-time roles for specialized, where I just want a person who's just going to do this, and I know that I'm going to get a neurodivergent workforce, and I'm going to get a workforce of women, because the women, this will suit them, and I'm going to get the best workforce. So I think that leaning into being open-minded into how your workplace, and the excuse of that's how we've always done it. And then going back to what you said, Michelle, around it helping the entire workforce, I regularly say every single workforce have got staff who are going through trauma. It might be a marriage breakup, a death in the family, complete financial challenges, etc. They've had a fight with their kid that morning. So those people, when they come into a safe space at work where they can just go and be on their own and have a quiet space and that's actually going to support the well-being of your entire workforce. And so I think and there's a lot of people arguing, like you said, what's happening in America, gosh. I think that when you do get it right, it's actually a workplace that thrives, and everyone will thrive, and your outcomes will increase too. Yeah.
It's definitely one of the things that I'm proud about for working at Microsoft, because we have an outcomes, not hours based workplace. So that means you don't need to be in the office between the hours of 9 and 5. You don't need to be at your desk between the hours of 9 and 5. Hours have nothing to do with how well you do your job. You need to get your job done, and you get that done whenever and however you like. No one is telling me you need to do it in this way, you need to colour inside the lines, you need to jump over these fences, you need to, and none of that is there. And I see in our workplace not just working women that are happier because they're able to drop their kids off at school or pick them up or deal with sick days or work from anywhere, because absolutely, if you are working in tech and you have an internet connection, what does it matter where you are working from? But also the men, the husbands, the fathers are better. They are often the ones in their families that are getting to drop their kids off and pick them up because they can, because there are no restrictions around that at Microsoft, which means they are better fathers, they're better husbands, and actually they're better work colleagues, because they understand the pressures of a family from an equal perspective. They are able to really share the burden and also share all of the love. They're not missing their kids' sports day, they're not missing the award ceremony, they're not missing the parent-teacher night. They get to be there for those things, because as long as they get their work done whenever, however, that's all good. And I think it makes us better people, makes us better workers, makes us happier, and it makes us better, stronger families. That's pretty cool. The other thing we should be talking about, because we're on Accessibility Awareness Week, is Yeah, this is my other thing that I love to remind people of. Whilst you are young, whilst you are strong, you feel that, you are unbeatable and you can wake up one morning and go for a 10K run and you didn't need to train or anything. But as you go through your life, as you get older, you start to need more and more things to help you. You need some glasses to help you see better. You might need a hearing aid. You prefer to get a taller car so that you don't have to bend down to get into it because that hurts. So, because this is an episode where we are talking about accessibility, it being World Accessibility Week, one of the things I always like to bring up is the fact that we start our lives pretty much in prime shape and we feel good, we feel strong, we could get up tomorrow, do a 10K run and not even prep for it, no problem. But as you get older, you start to feel that things are more and more of a problem. Maybe you need to have glasses now so that you can see things at a distance, or to read those little pill bottles. Um, Maybe you need a hearing aid. Maybe you are choosing a car that is a lot bigger and roomier so that you don't have to crouch down and get into it, because things hurt when you get older. No one warns you about this, but as you get older, things get more difficult, and each of us are on that kind of spectrum, on a downward spectrum where things work less and hurt more. So if you are building apps, you are building solutions in your workplace, and you are only building them for people that are in peak condition, you are definitely going to be missing out a large proportion of the workforce, well, a large proportion of the population. And if you build it as accessibly as possible, you make it so that people can change from dark mode to light mode so it's more visible, can make the text bigger, can speak to it instead of having to type, can have it say things out loud. All of these things, which might seem to you right now to be addressing very specific needs of people with disabilities, are in fact serving the wider population as all of us deteriorate over time.
Michelle, I'll
Yeah.
add to that as well, in that I'm very proud to be part of Neuroability in Capgemini, which is about advocating and helping each other. But the other thing I think about is that I didn't realise when I went on this journey that anybody can become neurodiverse at any point in their lives, through an accident or a trauma or PTSD or anything like that. And the way our brains think changes as we get older as well, with dementia and other things like that, which can really affect the way in which we think. And I think it's important that we make sure that we've got diverse teams, and that includes gender, different ways of thinking, culture as well, in order so that when we are developing and creating new solutions, we think about how we create them so that everybody can understand them. Yeah, I'll never forget providing. I was on a beta testing for um, a chatbot that did CBT and other things in the States, and one of the jokes that the chatbot made, I completely disagreed with, and I did not. It offended me. So I reached out to the development team and I said, "Heads up, here's a screenshot of just what your chatbot said." And it turns out the founder was a female, and she came back to me and said, "I am so sorry. This is appalling. This is because the development team was of a certain type, and that she vowed to change that, and she did change it. But yeah, it's still occurring today, and we still need to be mindful of how we code and building, especially with AI into the future, making sure it's ethical." Because what's funny to one person is not funny to another. It's interesting.
Yes, I was talking about bias in AI and how people often assume when when they haven't really worked with the problem, they assume that if you have all of the data, then you're working with data-driven decisions. But of course, um, for example, bank loans is a really great example. You know, after the war, you could only get a bank loan if you were a man, and um, that if you include all of that data all the way back, an AI might presume from that that actually men are a better loan candidate because so much of the data is skewed towards men. But in fact, you need to really remove that data before the point where women were equally allowed to get loans. From that point, you can actually see that women are better candidates in terms of they repay their loans, they more often, they default on their loans less. And when you put data in like that, that is real data-driven decision making, but you needed to remove some of the data to make that the case. And when people haven't seen that data, they don't realize that that is the case. So, yes, it is the perspective that you view the world from can make big differences in the stuff that you build and the workplaces that you work in. And it's important to be aware of the fact that the perspective that you see things from is not the perspective that everyone sees things from. And bringing those people in with different ideas and different ways of seeing the world, different ways of working, can be the best thing that you do for your workplace and the product you're building.
Absolutely. I
You,
saw that
Michelle.
when I first was learning around how the data models are built, and the first thing I said was to Sarah, "Oh gosh, let's find some funding and let's have a completely neurodivergent built model," because even in regards to algorithms, like there is no way you could map an algorithm to a neurodivergent brain. Like it'd just be such a cool model of genuinely that high quality data, but also that out of the box solutions. And yeah, no, I think, but on that accessibility front, as you said, the helping everyone, like the social stories, I always talk about that they're there to help people with anxiety around what a space looks like or what's going to happen. Whereas for me, I love them because it shows me visually where I need to go, because my sense of direction is appalling. And that creates an anxiety. I mean, I get to places really early because I have to allow for the getting lost time, and I guarantee you I get lost. So I think the social stories are great, and the access with the AI, I love it because I don't have a coding background, but it's given me access to those platforms. I can now build software, and I can obviously, and then the ninjas fix it for me. And so I think it's very good around, like you said, and I'm regularly, my friends laugh at the size of the font on my phone. And I think by continually, when Sarah mentioned having diverse teams in regards to gender, culture, um, and sorry, disability, etc. I think it's really important, and this is the piece I wear it as a badge of honor, and I play it every single week at coding. You need someone who doesn't know the field, because they're
Yeah.
your end user who need to understand it. So I regularly, the kids laugh at me. They look at me, some of the questions I ask, like, did you just ask that? But you know what? It's great because it helps them communicate better with what they're trying to sell. And it also shows the flaws in, I find with a lot of tech people, their number one flaw is that they start with an assumption that I know this here. So I think I provide a good space too for that entry level, and that's what AI does. And I have an incredible assistant now in my Copilot. I use it for, it's helping me understand. I recently called out a bias on it because I asked about ghosting, because I'm doing a lot of work obviously with young youth and whatnot, and I'm trying to keep up with all the lingo. Um, so so when you do your special effects for this, please make me an old lady for that section. And I asked it about ghosting, and it gave me a reply about, oh, well, when you are on a date with someone and they don't turn up and rah, rah. And then I wrote back to the AI and said, you have given me a completely biased response. You're suggesting that women are weak, that this applies to women dating. I've told you my age. This is completely irrelevant. Please, and then I screenshotted it because the AI wrote back, "You are absolutely right. Thank you for pointing this out. Let me offer a more neutral, age-appropriate explanation." Because the bias is there that it's a woman who's weak, and so I think Yeah, I love calling it out. It's quite fun. I do that with a lot of the young people as well because, they quite enjoy and of course, then you've got people like Rod, Sarah, who will, for sport, they love confusing the AI as well with their
Yeah.
suggestions. So I think, there's a great space. But as Sarah
If
said,
you put the thumbs down on it and let it feed it back.
Mm.
So in Copilot for your responses, there's an option
yeah,
to
that's what
thumbs
I
down or
did.
thumbs up of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
response. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really, really important because otherwise, generally your conversation between you and Copilot is private. So it doesn't take anything that you say in that conversation and learn from it. But if you do what you did, the thumbs
Mm,
down and gave it the feedback and the screenshot and
Mm.
all of that, they will
Mm.
retrain that
mm.
into a newer version of the
Mm.
model, which is really important for improving it. Yeah.
It is.
Um,
Oh, we got to finish, or can I share something?
I, no, go ahead. I was just gonna move on to Gosh, but
Okay,
if
cool.
you want to say
So,
something first, go.
so one point on Copilot, I'm very lucky to have it as well, and it does optimize my work. However,
Mm.
I find note taking fascinating because it takes verbatim what has been said. Whereas when I'm on a call or on a Teams and my notes are like their thoughts leading to other thoughts. So it's like I'm visioning when I'm talking and I'm thinking, oh, okay, how can we take this next? How can we take this to the next step? And so whilst you've got all those amazing notes and amazing things up, it completely misses the thinking. So I've been asked to still keep doing my notes because it provides so much insight and it's absolutely fascinating. The one other thing I wanted to
So
talk
I
about.
think you might not realise that no one
No,
else does
I know
that.
that's
What,
ridiculous.
what,
It's just
what
not
you
my
do,
brain.
that's a very valuable
Oh, I
skill.
don't know, but yeah, there's another thing I was thinking when you both were talking about just because you can does not mean you should.
Mm.
And I was once asked to think about could I identify the top performers in an organization using AI? Yes, I could. Yes, we built the solution. Yes, we could do it. When I presented to the board, I recommended they didn't do it. And the reason for that was it could be reverse engineered and turned around to find the worst performers. And then the other thing was performance is a matter of perspective. So, for example, my hyper focus can be extremely a good thing to have. It can be a bad thing to have if I'm hyper focusing on the wrong thing.
Mm.
So sometimes you have to say, well, yes, we can build it. Yes, we can make this happen. But sometimes it's about saying, well, we shouldn't be doing this. It's not the right thing to do. And in fact, sometimes it's saying, well, this could actually be dangerous. So,
Mm.
yeah.
They're definitely, I think organisations definitely benefit when there is flexibility in the workforce because certainly when I look at myself and my own story, if Microsoft had judged me against the KPIs, against the rules and all of that, I I would not have had such a long story as I do in
Mm.
Microsoft. But they see that I bring something different
Magic.
from what they get. Uh, from the people colouring inside the lines, and they realise they need that too, and so they let me do my stuff, without trying to force me to be what everyone else is. And I think you need that because if you have everyone being exactly the same thing, your innovation, your creativity
Mm.
is lost. You
Mm.
really do need to. Yes, it's okay to say, here are some guidelines for everyone, but don't force people to be within them because stuff will be missed when you do. Wongy, we haven't talked about Gosh, and it is one of the coolest things that happens each year. And maybe you could share what that is, where that came from, and how it's
And
growing
and it's a
year on
lovely
year.
it's a lovely segue talking about how we need people that think differently, because that's exactly what Gosh is about, that disruption. So we, as you know, my background with the coding club and seeing all these incredible young people and their talents. Another side to that is I'm involved in a lot of events, competitions, and hackathons, etc., in the metro area, and I love going them there enthusiastically, whether I'm judging or mentoring or whatnot. And I look around and I love seeing all the great ideas and innovation, but then I get really frustrated because, one, there is no kids from the regions at these events, and then there is also a very, very low, if any, representation from government schools. So I said to Telly, who Sarah referenced earlier, Telly, I want to run a hackathon for the ninjas in Mandurah. And he said yes. I don't think he had any idea then how far I would take that, because I went to the city of Mandurah and said, "Oh, Curtin are bringing this great event. You guys need to get behind." And so I did a little bit of disruptive hustling myself and ended up with a lot of sponsorship behind the event. At which case I thought I better talk to Telly about this, because it's asking for 2 signatures. And Telly very kindly then put me onto the Curtin Advancements team, and Curtin have supported the event in kind by allowing running the cost centre and the agreements, which is wonderful, because I don't touch any of the money. So I then went on to develop this event that was inclusive, created space for these incredible kids to demonstrate their skill sets. Gosh runs over 2 days. The first day is all around raising aspirations of regional young people through disruption. I'm talking to these kids that don't necessarily, they haven't got the finances, to have access to all these amazing things. They're not traveling to Perth. The speakers don't get as far into the regions. So I thought, let's give them a showcase, like a big event at a theatre, and we have the rock star performers, which are the tech people doing cool stuff, like so Michelle and George from Microsoft, and Sarah does an incredible presentation. So, and we're pranking all the speakers. If they talk too long, you get rickrolled and kicked off the stage. And our youth leaders. So we have the youth are emceeing it, and it's hilarious, because they've got the entire tech crew are autistic, and they're going, right, nope, speaker, they don't care who, it can be a minister for all. If they've gone over time, they hit that rickroll, and it's great. So by doing that, we're actually showing them that where it's okay if you're getting in trouble, or you're thinking out of the box, you're getting around parental controls or the school Wi-Fi. Like, come on, let's harness that, and let me show you that this is a pathway to the future careers and whatnot. So that's day 1, and then day 2 we have the hackathon, and the model itself is built. Sarah's amazing brain saying we need a comic book. So each Gosh event we have a problem development team, and they are experts in the region, and we have people from regional development, from environment, from future industries, from innovation, and they all get together and come up with what's going to be impact this region significantly in the next 20, 30, 50 years. So then we put all those into a fun story, and we make a comic, and the kids on the day turn up and they get their comic book. So we've removed all barriers and advantage. So traditionally a private school for an event like this would be preparing and coaching the kids, and the government schools would not have that advantage. So level playing field. The literacy barriers are removed. That when we surveyed the kids, I think it was 80% admitted they didn't even read the text; they just went straight to the comic. And of the 20% that did read the text, 87% were girls. So the girls read So it was a really interesting data. So then we, anyway, so we oh, I've lost an AirPod. Is that okay? Can you still hear me? Sorry, one sec.
So Wong, you forgot to mention that it's linked to the Sustainability Development Goals.
Yeah, so problems, yeah.
Which is really good. And then the other thing that you forgot to mention is that it's free for the regional schools and for anybody to attend. Sometimes at a private school there's a cost in terms of buses and things like that, but the idea is to get it as low cost as possible so these kids can actually be inspired, and they can get involved, and their voices can be heard. It's the same thing again. It's and Wongi, she she runs it seamlessly, and the energy, the fun in the room is out of this world. It's
Yeah,
another
there is.
level. When you're in the auditorium with the kids, it's they're energized, they're inspired, they walk away investigating things, terms that they'd never heard of before, and they walk away fascinated and interested in something new.
And I love it
And
because
yeah,
oh, sorry, Sarah.
go on, keep going.
Because we talking about the whole event, we're like, remove barriers, remove barriers. So
Yep,
as Sarah said, it's free. We provide buses for government schools. So we bus
yep,
the kids, and we don't just provide buses, we give them the Department of Education pack that's of all the paperwork, because we acknowledge that teachers are very under the pump, and just putting together the paperwork for a excursion is enormous. They have to have so we have all of that. We collect all that. We have one data point go off, we just tell them your bus is coming at this time. So we actually even organise the bus, and this is where people don't acknowledge the barriers. They'll say, "Oh, we've given regional access. Regional have free tickets, or we can give buses to the regions." But without being that, like, that's why we sort of take it that extra level, and that's why we are so successful as an event. So the Gosh event is now scaled. We're in 3 regions this year. Woohoo! I think Midwest, Southwest, and Peel, of course. And we understand the teachers are busy, so we do as much as we can for the teachers. We understand that we actually don't want the teachers involved traditionally on the hackathon. So the kids enter themselves, they put together their own teams. They're entering with their siblings, they're entering with their neighbours, they're entering with kids from their scout group, and we're seeing mixed, diverse teams, and that's the future of innovation, isn't it? That's the best innovation. So, and then when the teachers are involved, we ask them to judge, because one, they have to stand back and watch, like I mentioned earlier, and they get to see what happens and the magic of this space when you do things differently. So the teachers are inspired as well. So, but I love, as I have my own personal like gauges of how successful the event is. So I always joke, and Michelle, my favorite footage is when that footage of you, Microsoft on stage, and the kids are standing up and screaming. And, I just wish, I always say, I wish I had video of the teachers, because the teachers were like, sit down, sit down. And I mean, that to me, that's where we're succeeding, because we're inspiring these young people. Like, who would have thought at an event with tech focus, these kids are standing up excited, and that's what I mean. So I really look, and then I get the feedback from the teachers. And another point I love, what Sarah just mentioned, was, so Sarah does a whole presentation on drawing innovation, and how she starts with pictures live on stage, and the kids. This year, Sarah, I don't have them with me. We've got booklets now in all of the show bags. Every kid gets a show bag, and they're now going to draw along with Sarah. So they get their ideas, they can do the same. So Sarah took this to a whole nother level. She's literally talking quantum, and the kids are in the audience going, why don't we use a satellite? Because Curtin spoke about a satellite in your hand. Why don't we use Curtin's satellite? They can capture the space junk. We can use quantum processing to get it in real-time energy. This is how we can have future source. Like, this is where this conversation, I loved it. And the kids were buzzing. Anyway, the teacher feedback was, great event, probably a little over their head with topic points. And then I love it, because that teacher wrote that feedback from that school. The next day in the hackathon, 3 year 5 team kids from that school in primary used quantum in their solutions. And it was like mind blown, like, thank you. Like, because these kids are getting it, because we say in their solutions, you don't have to be able to build your prototype, obviously. But what is tech doing now that's going to save us in the future, obviously around the Sustainable Development Goals? So it's that whole, what I was talking about, what we do at coding. We don't have a ceiling on what these kids. We stay within the law, and I regularly am keeping them within the law, don't get me wrong, because they can do some cool stuff. So I say stay within the law, but we don't have a ceiling, and that's what we're doing at Gosh. We're exposing kids to where the teachers might feel this is above, beyond. And I can vouch as a teacher, it's a bit of a trait we have, some of us. So, it's just great to see when you take the ceiling off, and then you propel it with the energy of people like yourselves and our great speakers, and the kids just and the speakers walk away going, that's the best event I've ever been to. Like, they have so much fun. So yeah, we're it's
Michelle,
a lot of fun.
it's also about entrepreneurship. So it's
Yeah, of course.
introducing kids early to entrepreneurship. And also, I'm reflecting on what you've just said. So my youngest, she got to do she's done every GOSH hackathon,
Yeah,
I
I know,
think.
including the Southwest. Look at
Yeah, and she's going up to, so I've just taken her
Geraldton.
along. And
Yep.
she's been learning from osmosis by seeing and doing this, so much so that she's now not afraid and she understands what a hackathon is. And she understands how to develop concepts and ideas. And then Wong, we've put two teams together for the WADSI, WA Data Science Innovation Hub hackathons, and any of the funds went back to the Coder Dojo Club as well. But because of GOSH, she learned how to do a hackathon. So therefore, when we did the health one, we won some funds for the club, and the police one as well. If it wasn't for GOSH, my two wouldn't know how to do this. So it gives kids, in my opinion, I think every kid should be allowed to do a GOSH hackathon, and it should be encouraged because of the skill sets it teaches them. Conceptual thinking, it teaches them creativity at a young age, and those are the skills of the future that we need to differentiate.
Yeah, I think you're spot on about that. And hackathons are such an interesting thing. I think our audience in India, they definitely know how important hackathons are, and we see them competing in them all the time. Here in Australia, it's kind of a mix. People that have been in them, once they've been in them, they will go into more of them. But a lot of people are afraid, I think. They think they need to be able to build something, to code something. You're going to need to speak to strangers, which is, of course, a scary thing for a lot of people as well. But yeah, it does give you a huge advantage in that it opens up your mind. It does introduce you to a lot of things and people that you've never met before. Gia, who was my grad hire at Microsoft, and now she's not a grad, she's grown up. But one of the things that got her the job at Microsoft was the number of hackathons she had been in. And she could talk about all of these things that she had built or that she had been part of, all of these project teams, and how she collaborated with them, how she worked with them, how they innovated. And that was really the thing that set her apart from all the other applicants. So yeah, to get them started when they are as young as they are, for gosh, it will definitely make the workforce of the future more ready, more creative, more viable, more innovative. And yeah, it's a really good way to get your kids started, but also, yes, to enable the workforce. So I do advocate for organisations to send their people on hackathons as well. You're never too old for a good hackathon. I think that we could talk all day if we let ourselves. There's always so much going on and so much that's interesting to talk about. But in order to wrap up, why don't you each give me one thing about the future? What can we look forward to? Wangi?
Only one thing. I oh look, I truly believe everything that we're doing at Gosh and Coder Dojo is a proof of concept in regards to what the future of education and the workforce. It's a revolution, and we're going to be ahead of the game just because of we're led by diverse minds. We accommodate diversity, and we are having the most phenomenal outcomes, whether that be through our coding club or the Gosh event. And as Sarah mentioned, everyone should have an opportunity to be at Gosh, whether you're there as a mentor, a volunteer, a participant. And, and I mentioned we're working on a bigger social enterprise model that will give more people access to this style of disruption, not necessarily through Gosh, because Gosh is just for our awesome regional young people. But we are certainly looking at how we can spread that message far and wide because, yes, it's a revolution and we're leading it. Go, Sarah.
Yeah. So from my perspective, more hackathons. I want to do more. I want to keep advocating for neurodivergent people. I want to support Gosh always, mentor more if I can. And then, like Wongi said, make sure that WA is ahead of the game because as we reach 3 million plus, we are ripe and we've got I think the most amount of entrepreneurs and millennials as well in the world in one city. So it means that for innovation and new ideas and things, we're the best place to be right now. And then finally, quantum on the curriculum. I think that's one that's, I don't know what that's going to do, but it's here and it's going to disrupt everything. So really looking forward to that.
Quantum is magic, though, Sarah.
Just like you, Michelle.
Magic. So
it's gonna create a spark for sure.
Fantastic.
That's I don't know what it's going to do, but it's team that with AI. Oh, it's going to be fun.
I just love how kids are just so open to it. They just and that's it. They've still got that creativity to believe in the magic, Michelle. But it's exciting. As I said, we're in a very exciting space, what we do and what we see, and that's what obviously keeps me energized. Is I get to just be surrounded by so many incredible minds and celebrate where that's going to take us.
It's fantastic. Well, it's been so nice to chat to you both today. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your thoughts. And maybe we could do this again another time.
Yes, great. Love to come back again. Talk about all things disruption. It's great.
Thank you, Michelle and Sarah, for the insightful look at the wide gamut at what accessibility can mean to us as developers, mentors, business leaders, and people. We're going to have a link to all the references in the little widget at the bottom of the screen. You can also find it on our GitHub log, and this will tell you how you can get involved in GOSH, in Coder Dojo, in Osaka, which is the Autism Academy, and indeed in many other things that you might find at a more global or local level for you. We will be here hanging around online to answer questions for another 10 minutes or so. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Thanks, Mish. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.